one here. I tend to have a bit of wonk going on my jumpers. Then all you do is solder them. There was a light. I definitely saw a light. Hello, I'm Robin Vincent and welcome to Molten Modular DIY. Today we're looking at the Neutral Labs Elmira. It's a box. It's less of a modular thing and more of a complete thing. In a box, standalone. It's inspired by the Soma Labs Lyra 8, which is a fabulously Russian and interestingly deep drone synthesizer. This is a bit of that. A chunk of that, a part of that, kind of a 3-channel version of that. It's a hybrid digital and analog machine, which is going to create all sorts of noise, feedback, delay, and drone loveliness. Now, Neutral Labs have sent this to me in order to do a video both on the build and also a review, and this is supported by SoundMit, which is a synthesizer and sound exploration conference that's held in Italy every year, except for this year where it's going to be virtual, and I'm going to be contributing to that in doing an interview and these videos and bits and pieces. And so I'm very thankful to SoundMit for giving me the opportunity to get a taste of this little box, and hopefully this video is going to be helpful to you in seeing how you put the thing together, how well that goes, and also what does it sound like, what's it about. So that's the plan. So I haven't looked in the box as yet, so let's see what it is that we get. Thankfully I don't have to make the box. I think they did do an option where you make the box yourself, but that's a step too far for me. I like the circuits more than the carpentry side of things. So here's the front panel. Ooh. Let's see what else we have inside the box. Right, PCB doesn't look that difficult. It looks well spread out. It's not packed full of components. It looks pretty all right to me, I have to say. Then we have a nice bunch of knobs, USB cable, some kind of powery type cable, bags, feet, I think those will be. Right, a bunch of resistors and stuff. Oh, it's a long thing in there. This is heavy. Panel screws, washers, pots, nuts. Cool. Diodes and stuff, capacitors. It's all very nicely packaged, I have to say. And this is an itsy bitsy something or other. I imagine this is the digital heart of the control system or whatever. So there's that. There's a thing with no things on the end. That's interesting. Nice sticker of the nonplussed guy. He seems a bit nonplussed. But cute nonetheless. Oh, almost missed something there. Oh, look, jack socket. Yeah, could be an output. Could be an output. Bits of paper. Alright, that's coming away. And that's a rather nice box. Yeah. Cool, I imagine we're not going to need that for a little bit, so I'll put that to one side. So let's check out the build guide, which is available online. There's no bits of paper in the box as far as I can see. So it says first prepare the panel. I'm assuming it referring to the front panel as opposed to the PCB. This is our front panel. Doesn't seem to have a cover on it or anything. It's really rather nice. It's made of PCB type material, and the printing on it and the silvering around here is really lovely. So place the 4 LED sockets in positions shown below and fix them with a nut. Pots and washers and stuff. That looks like it could be the sort of thing. So place the LED sockets in the positions shown below. Right, so all you've got below is a picture of the finished article. Right, so it says, okay, so these, what, go like that? Yeah, I think so. So I think what we're doing is we're putting these in. We're going to just have to make assumptions. They're not, don't appear to be into desperate amounts of labelling detail, at least so far. But I have 4 of these things here. Now these, and one here, see? And they all come with a screw. So I'm going to go for the idea of taking the nut off, putting it into the front panel. Oop, and screwing that on. That is what I think they are saying. Oop. Now I should say that I haven't done any prep for this. I haven't watched a video on how to build it or anything. I'm just getting stuck straight in, assuming that it's all going to go brilliantly. And so if you're doing that, well done. But obviously if you're watching this video, then you perhaps have taken a better route and decided to watch some idiot do it first, just so that you can avoid all of those tricky problems. So for this is tuning there, there and there. I think they all get one. That seems to be right. Not seen LED holders before. This is a new experience for me. Good. Done. Nice. Right. Now put in the 6 touch pads. That must be these fellas. You must use the plastic washers under the touch pads on the top side. Plastic washer. So plastic washer through there. That then into these bits at the bottom. That's got to be it. On the bottom side, tighten the nut and do not use any washers. The nut must be in contact with the metal film below. So we've got these fat nuts. They seem to fit. There are larger nuts. They look like pot nuts, I think. So I'm going to go with that. That seems to be in contact. I wonder how that all connects up in the end. Don't know. So there we go. Plastic washer. That through. Thick nut. On. Right, so LED holders in. Crazy touch things in. Solder the 4-pin SMD header to the back of the panel. So we turn the panel over and there's this bit here. Guess I'm going to have to open another bag. Pin header, SMD for panel. Yes, look, there we go. It's on the. It's labelled. It's on the bag. That's a good thing. So this is that it. Solder the 4-pin SMD header to the back of the panel so that the pins point towards the bottom edge. Bottom edge is that way round. Pins point towards the bottom edge. The problem is it just falls over. Your kit either has an angled header, right, or the flat one in the middle. They both work the same way. So you want the pins point towards the bottom edge. So it wants to be in like that and it needs to be soldered. It doesn't quite add up, right? Because it says that you solder it in so that the pins point towards the bottom edge. Now, this is pointing directly out. So if I'm assuming it's talking about the bottom end, the ones that I'm soldering, in which case it's then pointing. It should be in that orientation, that way round. However, when I look at the image down here that they've done onto the black front panel, I can see lines going off from it. And if you look very, very closely, which you're probably not going to be able to see on the camera on here, there are lines going off this way. So I think what they mean is if it's flat, the pin should be pointing to the bottom edge. If it's upright, it should be this way round. I'm going to need to put some solder on the pad and then add stuff to it. Right, okay, sort yourself out. So, bit of solder. So how I'm going to approach this, so I'm going to stick a bit of solder onto one of these pads. And then I'm going to present the what's it to it. Okay, is that enough? Probably not. A bit more. Oh, my hands are all a bit shaky this morning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this in and hopefully it will stick. Like that. See, that was simple. How easy was that? Now that's not particularly straight. So maybe I'll just straighten it a tiny bit. Can I do that? Yeah. That's a bit better. Now if I solder these other fellas, I can then go back and add a bit of solder to the other bit. Good. Okay, I think the crisis over. I think we sorted that out. That looks like the same as the photo. I'm going to go with that. Do not put any pots or switches on. Put the panel aside and let's get stuck into the PCB. Okay. So the PCB, we only have the one. Whoops, it's not massive. This should be completely doable. What do we think? Doable? I think so. Doable. Things happening on both sides by the looks of things. Or is it? I don't know. Anyway, what does it say? Solder the bottom side components as described below. Alright, so it is top and bottom then. Means you need to pay attention to which way you solder the components to the PC panel. Okay, it's saying that you will blow it up if you don't get it right. Cool. D for diodes, R for resistors, C for capacitors, U are pots, as well as the IC and the dip socket. S are switches. LEDs are LEDs. Cool, looks fine. Okay, so in the list is fine, but then it says after the list to start with the resistors and diodes. I've got resistors here. So there's no labelling on any of the resistors. There's no colour coding on the build document. So I guess I'm going to have to get my... Well, it might be done on the numbers. That might be easier, but I'll have to check on my multimeter. I always think this is a little bit of a shame. It makes me think, oh, you know, you've got to have more gear in order to build this thing. You know, this sort of project, which doesn't look difficult, it should be possible to build it without having to resort to extra equipment. You know, so they could have labelled the resistors. That would have been nice. Just to look, put a mark on it somewhere, or in the build doc, just say what the colours are, because we can all find that. Now, of course, I could go onto the internet and put the colour bands into something, but the colour bands are hard to see. Never entirely sure whether you've got them right. So help in the build guide would be enormously useful. So let me see if I can work something out. So these ones here, I've got 4 of these. Okay, so 4.6K. So I'm assuming they're 4.7K. So I've got a choice between 47K and 4.7. This is 4.7K, definitely. See, that's all they needed to do. Just write on it. That's all. Right, I've got 3 here. 10K. 10K, yep, there's 3 of those, 10 kilo ohms. Okay, so that's 10K. Cool. So, I mean, so generally speaking, if you're selling a kit of something, I would highly recommend treating us as idiots. You know, don't be embarrassed to put simple information onto something, because it's going to be helpful, because we don't know what we're doing half the time, and we enjoy... You know, I'm talking about, when I say we, I'm talking about us punters, us people who like to have a go. We enjoy having a go, but we just need a little help so that we're not having to faff around. We can just get on with the build rather than trying to identify components. But, I mean, maybe that's part of the learning experience. Maybe that's useful. But, I don't know, I don't really want to spend my time working out the rings on a resistor, you know. I don't think that helps me learn much at all. I mean, I can memorise colour codes, I suppose, and then I can just see a 47K resistor when I see one. I suppose that's possible. Does that seem likely? No, not really. So what have I got here? I've got a 1 mega ohm. 1 mega ohm. There's 2 of those. So that seems right. Okay. 47. 47.5. 47. That's good enough. Is there an easier way of doing this? I don't know. If there is, I don't know it. So 0.22 meg must be 220k. Right, 220k. 0.9k. So yeah, nearest damn it 1k. Yeah, got it right. So after that exciting adventure into discovering the value of resistors, I'm now going to stick them all in the board and solder them. Let me do these first, and then we'll just drop to the time-lapse camera so you don't have to sit through the whole thing. So these diodes to start with. So the diodes are here. Now they have a band on them, and that shows us that matches up. That shows us the orientation because it matches up with the board. They've also got a line on it. Those sorts of things, very important. Now this is a nice widely spaced board, so I should be able to get these in with no bother. So black line needs to be the other way around, like so. It goes in there. See, my natural inclination is to fold them slightly smaller, and then you bend the pins on the other side to hold it in for a bit. Put the other one in. Don't need to bend it quite so close to the body of the component. That goes in there. Like that. See that the line matches up with the line. That's the important factor. That's what we need to do. Resistors are similar. Now the build guide will give us the value of the resistor for the number that's on the board. So for R1, for instance, is the 1 megaohm. R1 is a 1 megaohm that we just recently measured. Here we go, 1 megaohm. So I'll do those two first. Top marks there for taking the label off. Label end off first. Awesome, well done. So R1 is R2. R1 over here. Alright, they're not in any particular order by the looks of things. Doesn't matter which way around your resistor goes in. Just pop it in the hole. Bend the legs a bit on the other side, just so it stays in as you're mucking about. And the other one for a 1 megaohm is R15. Which is all the way over here. Like that. So then all you do is solder them. So nice clean soldering iron. Heat up the leg and the component. Give it a bit of solder. Hold it for a second. Let it all flow around. And you're good. Some of it will go on the iron, sure, not a problem, but try to put the iron on the opposite side of the leg to where you're presenting the solder, and that's the best way to prevent that from happening. Heat up the pad, heat up the leg, add some solder, take the solder away, take the iron away. That's the idea. You can do it all day, all week. It's easy. Now I'd recommend wearing safety spectacles because solder can spit. It can spit and it will do nasty things to your eye. Also, some air would be helpful just to blow the fumes away. So there you are, there's our first bit soldered on there. Nice. Right, I'm going to do the rest of the resistors and I'll talk to you afterwards. So there you are, that's the resistors and diodes on. Nice. Like I say, it's a very clear, spacious board. There's acres of space on this thing, so you're not going to have any trouble finding where things go, or soldering, or bridges, or anything like that. It's all pretty damn clear. So now it says you need to put in the IC holder, which I'm assuming is this. Yeah, probably. The IC socket. Now that's going to go on the board here, where it says U1. Now there's a little nick on the IC holder, and there's a little nick on the screen print, and that is going to show us which way round it should go, which is like that. Now we could just bend these pins a little bit just to hold it in. Alternatively, use a little bit of tape just to hold it in. You could slide something on top in order to turn it over. Anything at all. Just to keep that straight, because you want it to be as flush as possible. So if you can use anything to hold your board a bit straighter, just try to see if you can get that as straight, level as possible, and then just tack one of the legs. Turn it over, have a look, see if that's flush, flat to the surface. Yeah, seems to be. Great. Still a little bit of movement on it. So I'm going to do the opposite leg. Just make sure it's level. Check it again. That looks pretty great to me. Super, lovely. So the idea is, as you're building up this build, you want to start with the lowest components, so that when you're turning it over to try to solder, things are going to stay in because they're flat against the table. So after this, we now want to start doing things like the capacitors, because those are quite tall, but I think those are going to be the next components to do. Next, solder all the capacitors except for the large ones. Polarity matters, except for C7. So there's the three big ones, right? So we assume that that's C1, C2 and C3. So these should be 1000 picofarads. Yes, they are. See, these are labelled in words. That's always handy. So we can put those to one side for the moment. So I've got 4 which are the same. 2, 3, 4. These appear to be 1 microfarad, I think that is. Yeah, 1 microfarad. So those are C4, 5, 6, 10 and 11. Oh, I've only got 4. Now, oh, there's the one that's rolled away. Got to be careful where you put your bits. Alright, so that's that bunch. So long leg is positive, short leg is negative. Also shows you on the side here, you see, negative, 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 short leg. So let's find this on the board. This is C4. You'll find them with the nice circles. Nice circles, C4, there it is. Now it's got negative printed on here, which is also the square, appears to be the square pad. So the long leg is going to go in the round pad, the short leg into the negative one, like so. Easy, innit? No problem. So another one, C5 is there. Long leg is positive, short leg is negative. Get it round the right way. So I've got a C7, which is a 3.3 nano. Now I've got a tiny weeny one here. And I believe this is the only one that doesn't require polarity. These sorts of capacitors generally just have a number on it, doesn't necessarily relate to the value, but this actually has 3N3 on it. 3.3 nano. It's got to be it, isn't it? Cool. So this one, ceramic capacitor, not a electrolytic like these other ones are. This one is C7. C7. And look, they celebrate by not giving it a round. They've given it a square screen print, so that must be the one. That goes there. Look at that. Doesn't matter which way round for that. C8, 4.7. Long leg positive, short leg negative. C9 is the 10. There, long leg positive, short leg negative. And then finally this one. Ooh. Long leg positive, even though they're wonky. Long leg goes in that side. Short leg has to be squeezed into there. And then a bit of a shuffle. Go on, there we go. So solder all the capacitors except for the large one. So that's all those bits. So all we do is turn it over. Because you've bent the legs a little bit, they shouldn't all fall out. So it should rest relatively straight. And as I say, the board is so spacious that it's not really going to matter if things are a bit wonky. Cool, so I'll solder these and we'll talk to you about the next bit. Good, that's looking lovely, looking like a circuit board, that sort of thing. Next up, the headers. Headers are tricky, don't like headers. Particularly when you're faced with a big long one like this, because that makes you think, uh-oh, I'm going to have to cut that up. That can be tricky. So now I have to solder the headers onto the PCB. What have we actually got for headers? 8-pin male header. 8-pin male header, this one. Spiky one. So that goes over here on jumper 1. Right, that's not too troublesome. But it talks about headers. Break the long female header strip apart as needed, making a small cut on both sides with a sharp knife and then snap it. I don't know what this looks like. This is the problem I'm having at the moment. Now I think I'm getting the impression that I'm having to sort of make up the headers for the IC, for the big master processing unit, which I think is in here. So this is an itsy bitsy something or other. Ooh. Okay, so that's a brain. That came with a bunch of these, which are too big. Okay, that one fits in there. These ones are too wide. So what I'm guessing happens is that you have to make this set of pins, this header, the right size for this to fit on. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so at this point I think I'm going to have to go and see if there's any videos on building this, because I can get that jumper in, that's fine. I get this one in over here, that's alright, easy every day of the week. These ones I think I'm having to cut down and put in, but it's really not very clear. Just says solder the headers onto the PCB. Break the long female header strip apart as needed by making a small cut. Okay, that's useful. You might want to use a file to remove. Okay, and then put that. So that's all it's telling you. Telling me nothing more than that. So there's a build video by Elk Electronic. This video is 1 minute 44. It's just a time lapse all the way through. Gee whiz. I'm not sure this is going to show me anything. Alright, well, their video jumped from this stage, like this, to having them all in. To just having them all in there. Oh, dear oh Lord. So, and in his video, he seems to have soldered the female ones to the board. See, what I think they need to do at this point, which is always helpful for anyone, again, advice for manufacturers releasing kits, is just throw in a couple of photos. I mean, you've got a photo of the PCB, that's great, but completely unpopulated. So I have no reference to tell me what it's supposed to look like. What is it supposed to look like? And that's, to me, is enormously helpful. It's enormously reassuring to be able to go, oh yeah, mine looks like the picture. Or I'm not sure which way this goes or which way around it goes. Oh, there's a picture. Now I know. Those simple things. Right, let's try this again. So I think That's what they want. They want to put that in there. So yeah, maybe it is the female one. Right, so in the list of components, there's a bit more information. So this one here is male. That's where I got that from. Jumper one, like this. That pops in there, and you solder it. Job done. So let's attempt to do that. This is going to fall out when I attempt to solder it because the capacitors are that little bit taller. So I'm going to use a bit of tape again, see whether this might help. Try to get that going in there a little bit. Try to get it straight as possible. Turn it over. Solder it gently. Check that that's okay. That'll do me. Straight enough. Definitely straight enough. I tend to have a bit of wonk going on my jumpers, so that looks good to me. So what I liked about that other build video, right, is the level of competence, which was high level of competence. Knew exactly what he was doing. In fact, you know, he like referenced his phone where the build guide was only once or twice. So he had no worries. Whereas when I do a video on these things, you're seeing it from the perspective of somebody who's just not quite drowning. And what I hope to display, to show, purpose that I do these things, is just to keep talking about it, to keep pointing out all the bits where you might fall over so that you don't. Okay, that's cool. Now, this, right, I've got to think about this. I've got a craft knife here somewhere. Oh, so it's got to be here. I've got to cut it on both sides and then snap it. Oh. Right, no problem. Let's not call it, let's not make a problem. Now these I know are actually already too long, so I need to make it as long as this is, like that, all the way to the edge. So I want to break it between these two here. Made no impression. No impression at all. Come on, we can do this. Maybe I need a more of a Stanley knife. Need to do the same the other way around. So here. Break it on the edge of your... Ah! Hates it, I do. Right. Okay, so that... Alright, so that is going to fit into there. That's alright. So that's one. I'm going to need to do another. Let's do another from the other end. Okay, so each time I've lost a row, see these little tuning forks come out. But hopefully there's more of this than I need. I'm hoping. I don't know, that might be exactly right, because what am I going to do with this one here? This thing here? I don't know. Anyway, so these are going to fit like that in here to make our socket. And I still need another one that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big to go in between. So I've got to get another 5 out of here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is when they talk about having to shave off a little bit, because otherwise it's not going to fit in that square, is it? So this is what you get in one of my videos. Nuts and bolts. You get all the tricky bits. Ah, no hiding. Right, so I've now got 2 5s. And I'm going to need to shave one down in order to fit that in between there, because that's not otherwise going to fit. So I need to slice off sides of here somehow. Oh, without the whole thing falling apart. Yeah, perfect. Look, perfect. Do you see that? Yeah, no, I've got to. All right, got to shave that down a lot more yet on both sides. Oh, I'm just really scared of these coming out of there. Oh. Still, I do have a spare by the looks of things. Oh, take a bit of that. So I've never made my own IC socket before, so this is quite exciting, really. Now I could bend that. I could bend that together, could I? I mean, is it going to have to be perfect? It is, isn't it? Still not there. Yeah, I'm feeling the face. That's my current state of emotion, I think. God damn it. This thing. What? No, that's the wrong one. I'm losing my mind. Losing it. Alright. There. Look at that. Oh, it's still sticky outy. Still too sticky outy. Because this is not quite straight. It's bending it a little bit like that. It's just pushing it out. I mean, it can go flat now, but it just needs to come in a little bit, I think. Just a little bit more. All right, a little bit more. Come on. Come on, you can do this. It's not quite lunchtime. All right, now I've got to solder these buggers in. See, these should have gone in before the capacitors, because the capacitors are higher than it. Urgh. See, that's my own fault. I should think about these things more deeply before I do them. I'm just stumbling in following the instructions, and I should know better by now that that's not always going to give me the best solution. So I need to have it raised up enough so that's going to work. This sticky tape is not particularly sticky. Now, if I can find a piece of foam or something to go underneath, just so when I turn it over, it's being pushed up. Alright, that's pretty good. I'll go for that. Well, all I can do is give a couple of headers a go and see if it's straight. Right, that's given them all one pin. It looks fairly straight to me. If anything, I want to push them out slightly when I'm soldering, push them out this way, just so that they line up nicely. So what I mean is, when I do this end, I'm just going to push it from this side. Same here. Give it another look. See this one down here? You can see that line? See, the line's fatter here than it is here. So I feel that that's just in a little bit. That needs to come out. Which one is that? That's this one going that way. Let's see if I can do something about that. By loosening it off and pushing it a little bit. See, that's better. That's better. That line is straighter. I'll do the same here. It's turning into an epic. Yeah, that's better. Better all the way around, that. I hope that's all right. Okay, let's just get to it. Solder the rest of these bits. And we'll worry about what to do with the MCU itself in a moment. Good, right? Look at that, solid. Got it done. Yeah, got it done. Definitely got it done. Good. Right. Worried about all this stuff though. Don't need that one anymore. So, solder the socket. Did that. I mean, we created our own socket, which is quite extraordinary. This is then going to have to go on the right way round, obviously. You have to go on there somehow, somewhat. It says solder male headers to the MCU. Place the female headers on the board and plug the MCU board in for alignment. Now solder the female headers to the board. Oh. See, that would have helped, wouldn't it? That would have helped had I read that. I didn't read that because it said solder the socket. Oh no, but that's that socket. Oh. So when did it say here? It said down here. Now solder the headers onto the PCB. Break the female one apart. So you've got instructions in two different places. Slightly frustrating. But these, as you can see, are too big. These are too big. I've just got to cut two of these off here. Now, should I do it with my craft knife like before? Or should I get my tweezers involved? 1, 2. Oh, it went. Look at that. It went. Brilliant. All right. Do that with the other one then. So what I can do now is I can place the long spiky bits into the bit I've already done. Got the middle one here. The other one here. That's all in. Then this should just pop beautifully without any problem at all on the top. See, yes, it did. Look at that. Flipping heck, look at that. So that is on there. What I have to do is solder. I mean, is it this way up or is it the other way up? I don't know. Must be this way up because there's a reset switch. Yeah, must be this way up. Has to be, doesn't it? Doesn't say anything more about it. So this is what we'll do. We'll just solder it all the way around here, and it's all just going to be fine. Right, that is on there and should be easily removable. I don't know that I want to. No, maybe I won't. Maybe I'm just going to leave that in. That's fine. It's not in anybody's way, I don't think. Right, big fat 3. A little stressed. C1, C2 and C3. Long leg positive, little leg negative. Long leg positive, short leg negative. So that's those 3. They can sit there. I don't really care how wobbly they are. So there. Now, as I understand it, we have to do things on this side. Now on here we've got all the pots, the LEDs, and some switches. The top side, bottom side, top side, PCB top side. Place all the components on the top side as per the table. So we're looking at this side of things. Don't solder anything yet. Be sure you put all the LEDs around the right way. Don't solder anything yet, or you might not be able to fit the panel. Right. So this is the good old front panel business where you put everything in, but then you attach the front panel before you solder. That's what we're going to be doing. Right. So U2 to U11, bunch of pots. Alright, so these are just where all the squares go. They can't go the wrong way round. So you just try to get the pins into the pinny places and give them a good push. And they should go in nice. Like so. And, you know, obviously if pins are a little bit bent, you're just going to have to sort that out. Out! And if you push them through, they go straight into your finger. Like so. Relatively, I don't know, relatively good. Switches, S1 to S8. Says there's no polarity. Unscrew the top nut. Remove both washers. Keep the knurled one and discard the anti-rotation one. So that's the one with the little nip on is the anti-rotation. Keep the gnarled one. Leave the bottom nut in place. Tighten it. Okay. So these go in here. Wobbly. Apparently they don't have an orientation, so they can go any way up. Have you spotted the problem? Have you spotted the problem? Well, just keep at it. Don't worry. Don't panic. The problem is that I'm going to have to solder that switch underneath, and that means I'm going to have to take out that microprocessor. Darn it. I thought I was going to get away with just leaving that in there, so I don't have to worry about the strain. Removing it is going to put the whole thing under. And switch number 8. Okay, all in. LEDs. LEDs, I've now got 4 of these. So the orange ones. Short leg towards the PCB top edge, flat side of the printed circle. So the LED on here, and there. You can just about see on the screen print that one side is flat, and that's the negative one. See, this is where I get confused over round holes and square holes. I'm just going to have to ignore that and not use that as something. So it's saying that the short leg towards the top, the flat circle. See, I think that's that way around. So long leg positive, short leg negative to the flatted side. There, that's LED 2, LED 1, short leg towards the top edge. Long leg positive. Then the blue one, short leg towards the bottom. Blue leg there. Number 4, short leg towards the bottom. Cool. Now it says flip all the switches to the down position. God, well, I could have installed them either way round. Either way round I could have done, and I chose to have them stick up. So does that matter? No, they're all pointing in one direction. Then carefully put the panel on top and wiggle it into position. So I'm just going to try to set this down. Oh dear, I'm just the worst. I really should read things. So this goes over the top over here. Just to give the switches a little poke. This one. That one. Are we all in? Are we all in? Good. Press the panel into place. Once everything is snug, put on the washers. So stick on a screw. Do they need washers first? They've got all these washers. Let's do that. So put on a washer. So we're not screwing down into the panel. That's good. Let's do one over here. Okay, so the knobs are on. I'm not trying to do anything up too tight at this stage because nothing is soldered underneath. Now I wanted to keep the gnarly. There's hardly any room. That's just about gonna get some purchase on those switches. Push the LEDs up into their sockets, because they're not really going to stay until you turn them over. Now, having read that again, as usual, I'm not quite getting it right. It's because it's a little bit goes over the page. In my defence, it goes over the page, right? It says, press the panel into place. Once everything is snug, put washers and nuts. I assumed it meant back on. It says put washers and nuts on top of the U2 and U11 pot. So that's only two of them. And then flip everything over. Solder everything. And it's better not to put on all the nuts yet in case you need to take it apart for troubleshooting. Alright. See, the thing about that is that if I didn't just secure these here, then they're going to be floating around, and it'll be very possible for me to solder those in at a kind of a slightly strange angle. So personally, I think just putting the nuts on a turn, on everything, is going to make sure that everything is in the right place when I solder it. If I have to take the nuts off, I have to take the nuts off. That ain't no biggie. So I think I just need to go to town now on all this soldering, and then we'll see what happens next. So that's now all good, except for this one, because this one is under here. So I'm going to have to take that off. It's always supposed to come off. That's the whole reason you put it into a little IC holder. So it's just somehow got to, there we go. That wasn't a problem, was it? That wasn't a problem. Now I can get into there. Being very careful not to melt the beautifully made IC holder. So a bit of an angle. Try not to lean the iron against it, as I have done in the past. I speak from bitter experience. Cool. So that should all now be good. The LEDs went in all right. Yep, seem to have done. Good. I just got their legs to take off. Now you can connect the panel and PCB with the 4-pin DuPont cable. Let's assume that this is what that is. A DuPont cable? Let's say yes. Check the panel and PCB images below and connect as follows. Oh, okay. Right, so it's this thing here. This thing here we're trying to connect. And that's got the dot. There's a little dot on the silk screen there, which is almost covered by where I soldered it. That is pin 1. So I'm going to make that black. Pin 1 is black. Right. So this needs to be connected to 5, 6, 7, 8 on jumper 1. Here's jumper 1. Where the J is, that's 1, so it needs to be to the bottom. So pin 1 goes to pin 8. So pin 1 is black. I know I'm making this sound really laborious. I just really want to get it right. That should go like that. Yeah? Cool. Right. Solder 2 wires to the power jack. Ooh. As shown below. Leave the 3rd pin on the jack unconnected. And that's then that left. Power jack. Power jack is already on the board. Right. Solder 2 wires. What wires? From what? It's the end of October. Who's mowing the lawn? Honestly. Solder 2 wires to the power jack. Leave the 3rd pin on the jack unconnected. These wires connect to the male header. Okay, so this is what this is for. Now I don't actually know that I've got wire strippers. Something that I probably should have, I suspect. Don't believe I do, in which case I'm going to have to improvise with my snippers. Okay, so this piece of wire here is going to be going onto here. And I'm going to use one again for pin 1 for black. I think. So that means that these middle two, the white and the red, are going to attach to the power on here. In here somewhere. That's glued in. Great. Right. And then there's something else I have to do for the audio jack. So, right, okay, so I need to strip all of these wires. This is not how you strip wire. Fourth, that's my own sort of patented stripping. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to wind these up and then tin them a little bit. I think that worked. Okay, so pin 1 is the big one. Pin 2 is the one on the opposite side. Pin 3 is the one we don't want to touch. So pin 1 at the top, pin 2 there. But pin 1 on that is going to go to pin 2 on here. So pin 2, that's 1. Pin 2 is going to be red. So pin 2 is going to 5 volts, which is all good. I mean, it's all good. It's all good. Isn't this? I feel like I'm floundering. Okay, that seems connected. Pin 2, which is the middle one, that's going to go to there. Poke that through. Oh my goodness me! All right, so a little bit of burning, but that's all right. That's all right. So that's pin 2 and pin 3 going to the 2 pins on the power. See, I'm sure that's not important. That's just the power supply. God, am I alive? Now this audio output. This is presumably going in here. So that's just for holding the jack. So you've got signal and you've got ground. Signal, it says, is opposite this one. Ground is the ring. Yeah, of course. So that's the ring, that's the signal. Got it. So the signal goes to PCB pin 1. So pin 1, so that's the black one, is signal. The yellow one is going to ground. So a whole load of solder over that. Okay, load of solder. That's got to work. Then this must go in there. Almost done, it says. Connect the USB power cable and turn the device on. but it's in pieces. What are you talking about? God, blimey, blimey, crikey. So, right, this has got to go back in there, yeah? Somehow. Like that way up. Now, before I get carried away, I'm going to want to put this back in. So, methinks there's just a couple of steps missing in the old build manual. Nothing to worry about. Like putting that. Look, I haven't put this one in. Do you think I should put that in? I think I probably should. Should we put that in? Yeah. So I probably should have put this in earlier. But we can do it now. I've got a special tool here which helps straighten the legs. Otherwise, you just got to bend the legs in a little bit so it fits. Now, pin 1 is, I believe, this way, this top end here. That's where the nick is. So you need to put the nick that's there going to the same orientation. That goes in there, pushes it in. It pushes it in. Good. Anything else that I'm missing, which is obvious? Not that I can see. Everything seems to be soldered in. Right. So now these two things have to marry up. So I made pin 1 black. That's what I'm going with. So that should be the top of this jumper row here. Yeah, got it? So that's going to need to go in there. So I've now got pin 1 here. Yeah, 2, 3 going to the middle, 4 going to that one. That is, I believe, what the manual said. Right, connect the USB power cable, turn the device on, flipping the switch down, plug that in there. I've got some USB power over here. Watch out for smoke. Are we ready? Blue light, blue light, blue light. Alright, no other lights. Oh, was that a light? I'm imagining it. There was a light. I definitely saw a light. Something glowed over here. There, it glowed again. It glowed again, definitely glowed again. Saw that. Right, so something is going on. Good. Something. Okay, if everything is working, the only task left to do... How do I know if everything is working? Is to put it back on. Everything is working. Right, let's plug it into something then. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I think something's working. Now I'm not sure if I've got any effects on over there, so I might be putting some extra stuff on. But flipping heck, that sounds amazing. Right, I'll just turn it off, put it back together, put the knobs on and stuff because it appears to be working as far as I can tell. And let's see what sort of noise it can make. Right, they came with a bunch of little screws with which to put in the corners, I imagine. Are there holes? There are not holes. So these are for making holes, presumably. Doesn't quite fit flush. So if I push it too far one way or another, it's going to miss. So I need to centre it rather. Centre it so there's a kind of a same gap all the way around, I think. Then the knobs. The knobs. Anything special about these? No. No, they just seem to push on by the looks of things. They don't screw on or anything. So let's turn everything counterclockwise. So I have a point of reference. And so these are all going to be in that sort of 7 o'clock, I think. Yeah, so all like that. They do catch a little bit, so if you just waggle them off a nudge, they should move. Nice and smooth. Lovely. And finally, final touch, little feet on the bottom. Do they actually reach? If I'd done this backwards and upside down, oh my goodness. See, one would imagine that the feet have got to protrude over the top, which they kind of do just about. So if that's a foot in the corner, yep, that works. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's in. Nice. The Elmira from Neutral Labs. Yeah, what a nice little build. Relatively simple. Took a little bit of time because sort of in the middle you had to make your own IC holder. Now that was unusual, unexpected, but quite interesting in the end, because the PCB, the layout is very clear, it's very straightforward. I mean, I would very quickly and easily recommend it as a beginner's build, simply because the PCB is so straightforward. And also for a price of about 150 quid, which is kind of DIY Eurorack module sort of price, whereas this is an entire drone synthesizer. Now it is for the most part digital, it's got a little thingy in there which is doing all the heavy lifting, but it does give you the opportunity to build in all these analog knobs and switches and everything else. So it is a really good starter kit, and at the end of the day you get a box that makes noise all on its own. You're not having to plug it into something else, you're not having to wire it into a rack system or have anything bigger. So it's a great box that's going to give you hours of enjoyment playing with these things, just playing with the stuff. And for all of those reasons, it makes me just slightly perturbed that the instructions weren't perhaps as straightforward as they could have been. And, you know, and they easily could have been. Just a couple of photos of the completed PCB would have gone an enormous way to making it a much easier build. Not to say that it was difficult. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there could have been a little bit more to help first timers, second timers, along the way a little bit. Making an IC holder. Tricky, I think. I've only did that for the first time very, very recently, and I've been building a lot of kits for quite a while now. So that was a bit strenuous, having to cut stuff down. Not labelling the resistors. You know, it's not a biggie. You can find it out. You'll have a multimeter. I mean, if you are someone who's into doing a little bit of DIY electronics, then a multimeter is just one of those things you have to have knocking around. And so with that, we could find out what the resistance of the resistors was. Or if you don't have that, you can just look up the bands of colour. Get out a magnifying glass or your phone. That works really well, I find. And put those bands into Google and it will tell you the value of the resistors. So all of these things are easy to get over, relatively, but they didn't need to be in the way in the first place. And there was a little bit of family around with this thing here, just because I was trying to get it right. I mean, things don't have to be completely simple. I don't mind a little bit of challenge. So, you know, that's all good. I mean, and now that I've done this video and stumbled into those tricky bits and pieces, hopefully that's going to make it much, much easier for you to do your build. And those little niggles aside, the build was brilliant. It's really good, simple, easy. The case is really nice, nicely finished. I like that. I'm really enjoying the LED holders. Never seen that before. Those are lovely. And I'm now genuinely looking forward to giving this a really good go. Now I'm going to be doing a full review of how this sounds and how it works, and demonstrating and digging down into it to see what sort of sounds I can make from it. I'm going to be doing an entire video on that exclusively for SoundMit, for this international conference of synthesizers and other bits and pieces that's on in Italy in November, virtually, that I'll be contributing to. So the video for that will be available exclusively on their YouTube channel. But in a moment, I'll give this a bit of a play, you know, without knowing what I'm doing, just to give you an example of the sort of sounds that it can make. Hopefully it will sound better than the lawnmower next door. So for 150 quid, an enjoyable little build. It sounds a lot like the Lyra 8 from Soldering Labs, which is an awesome drone synthesizer, and this is an approximation of an awesome drone synthesizer. So there's a lot of fun to be had with this for a much cheaper price than the Lyra 8. How enjoyable is it to use? Well, you're just going to have to check out the other video to see. So there you go. I hope that was useful. And in the meantime, go make some tunes.